Dia dalam ke yuk? Ada glove ke? Tak ada glove. Dalam ke? Okey dalam. Boleh tengok dalam. Dalam bilik. Ada Satish.
Macam ni lah. Macam ni lah. Ni satu ni.
Ada Satish.
Ni.
Ada apa? Ada badan. Ada. 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 Ada doktor.
Bikin glove.
Kita panjat sini atas. Sepuluh dari atas ni.
Gila. Gila tak?
Tu, ni dalamnya.
Gila tu ya? Gila pakai dia. Oh. Demas. Ni ada mas.
Ni ada glove.
Ni.
Jap. Saya tongkat. Ya. Satu, dua, tiga.
Cepat. Okey. Lampu tu pun.
Masa ni mana?
Tuan Fizo, Kopra Fikri panggil apa?
Gentlemen, my name is Harith Iskandar, and welcome to another episode of What's Going on Malaysia. If you're joining me on Facebook or YouTube, you might have been watching that previous footage. If you are with me on Twitter Space, I would just like to tell you that the footage that was played just now was taken in Taman Sri Muda on late 20th of December, early morning 21st of December, when my wife and myself were out in Taman Sri Muda on a rescue mission, and we were called in by NADMA, the National Disaster Agency, to assist in the process of identifying, or rather confirming, the death of a dead body. The reason I'm a little bit starting this show on a little somber note is because that footage you saw is the stark truth, the reality. Inilah kebenaran, the horror of what Malaysia has been going through. And in my opinion, the worst part about that footage, that was Taman Sri Muda. Ini kat Shah Alam. Ini adalah satu urban area. That woman, she was an elderly lady, about 80 years old. She drowned in her house. She drowned in her house. This is not something that you would think, would not even cross your mind. Tak masuk akal. Kalau orang tanya, oh, how do you think is the worst place to die? Oh, shark attack lah, volcano lah, airplane crash. No, this lady drowned in her house alone. Kalau kita tengok footage tadi, air semua terapung, and the sofa terapung, and benda terapung. She actually drowned in a house. This is unthinkable. This is, I can't even fathom. I can't even work out what was going through her mind those last moments. Anyway, that's what we are here to talk about, Tuan-Tuan dan Puan-Puan. If you are watching this on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter Space, just to let you know that we hear you, we are listening to you, and thank you for listening to us. Please share this live streaming right now. If you are on Facebook, share it on your Facebook page. If you're on YouTube, share it on WhatsApp. If you're on Twitter Space, I'll be getting to you in a moment. So guys, tonight, it's going to be an interactive show as usual. I have got two gentlemen, not just one. I've got two gentlemen who are will be giving us a background view, an expert point of view about not just what went wrong in this situation, but more importantly, what can we do to make sure this never happens again to the horrific scale that it has. So without any further ado, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching after the fact, kalau anda sedang mendengar streaming ni, the next day, while you're jogging, while you're showering, while you're cooking, thank you for tuning in. Malaysia telah dilanda. We've been attacked by floods. It's been 2 weeks now. I think the first incidents, I think it's 16 December or 17 December. You know what? We've got so much to talk about. I'm going to bring in my two special guests. One of them, Encik Khamarrul Azahari, is the director of disaster and preparedness. I know it's almost the perfect name for. When I saw his name come up, I said to myself, I need to speak to this gentleman. So I'm going to bring him in right now. The reason I'm going to bring him in is because he's actually on the road. He's on the move. Dr. Khamarrul, how are you, sir? Apa khabar? Assalamualaikum.
Bye. Waalaikumsalam, Haris. Thank you
Very
for
quickly,
the invite.
Thank you for being on the show. You're traveling. You're in between where and where?
I'm from Kedah to Kuala Lumpur, Haris.
Kedah.
Just finished my mission in Jurai
Kedah to
today.
Kuala Lumpur. Thank you for
Yes.
joining us.
Yeah,
And you
no worries.
please could you take 1 minute to explain to the audience who you are and what you do and why you are qualified to talk about this topic?
Yeah, thank you, Haris, for these I think remarkable sessions. Indeed, let me introduce myself. I'm Khamarrul Azahari. I'm currently a director of Disaster Preparedness Prevention Center. Is the only disaster center in University Technology Malaysia. We were established back in 2015 under this Malaysian Japan International Institute of Technology. We have some sort of collaboration between Malaysia and Japan. We learn from Japanese how actually they um, handle these large scale of disaster, and we tend to establish a research center back in Kuala Lumpur. And I'm currently working more on the policy sides, look into the technical assessments, data managements to better understanding of complex disaster in Malaysia, not only the recent event, but in the last 20 years, Haris. Thank you.
Okay, so Doc Kamarul, you talk about disaster prevention and preparedness. Kalau mengikut pendapat ataupun social media ataupun from the rakyat's point of view, it may seem that we were not prepared. What would you say to that statement? It would feel to me that I wouldn't say me or you, but the country was not prepared for this disaster. What happened?
Well, there are many there are many issues to talk about today tonight, Haris. I think what was happening back in December 18 actually started from 16th of December when the Malaysia has released this so-called typhoon reminder, sort of nasihat taufan 16 Disember 5:55 pagi. I think that's the, the root causes of the issues, where some of the warning or forecasting sent by the governments has not properly disseminated at the local level. Perhaps some of our community are underestimate, and in fact some of those in the urban area didn't expect that they will receive such amount of water within short period of time during the night, so they were expecting at least flooding in the east part of Peninsular Malaysia at least. So I think to make it short, what's happening perhaps could be also happening in the other state in Malaysia. So when we are talking about climate change, the impact of the climate change, this is what we are expecting, something that come unexpected. It will not come during the working hours, of course, but this time around it came during the weekend. So people didn't expect, and I think we have to look into fact and figure how actually the governments respond and how much actually the NGOs come into the pictures. I think there are many lessons learned, Haris, but tonight hopefully we can reach many people who are suffering, perhaps have a better idea how to prepare for the future worse. Haris.
Okay. You're absolutely correct when you say that the NGOs and in my experience, the rakyat responded. Before I bring in the next guest as well to join us in the conversation, when I went down Turun Padang on the first night, which was on the 19th, to Highcom in Shah Alam, bila saya sampai, we spent the whole day buying kayaks and boats, motorboats from Klang, and we got to Highcom about 5 in the evening, 6 in the evening. My experience,
Yeah.
I nampak beratus rakyat, NGO orang biasa was all there with four-wheel drive, with boats, with makan, with whatever, datang nak tolong. And the first thing that went through my head was, ini macam like there was no, this is just my experience. I know people are going to
Yeah.
kutuk me and say, no, the government was there. No, in my experience on the 19th of December, to the point that I went to Highcom, it was 98% rakyat. It was the people. And in my experience over the next 2 days, 20 hari bulan, 21 hari bulan, 23 hari bulan, it felt like the rakyat was out there and NGOs. And that's why I feel like, not to say where was the preparedness, where was the the control center, the center. And that's before I said, I just want to bring in my next guest. This is I came across this article where I saw that this gentleman, an engineer, had come up with a data collection device, a data collection way to collect data, live data, real time data of flood. From flood victims, from people who are experiencing the floods. And I want to bring him in right now. Cik Muaz, apa khabar? Assalamualaikum. Welcome to the show.
Yes, Assalamualaikum, Haris. Good evening and Assalamualaikum to everybody.
Thank you for joining us. So very briefly, can you also spend 1 minute? Who are you? What do you do? And what did you come up with, this data collection, how shall I say, tool?
Okay. My name is Muaz Nick Muhammad Kamel. I'm actually attached with the organization. We do a lot of engineering and consultancy works. And my background is basically, I'm a marine engineer with a civil engineering background. And we do have a team of hydrologists, coastal engineers, and marine engineers. So these flood issues is actually very close to our work. And a lot of our work involve with data, either a real data, simulated data, or many kind of data. So we believe with recent event, if we did not capture what's actually happening, and basically we miss the boat, how to actually predict what's going to happen again in the future.
So when you say capture what's happening, you created something called bantuanbanjir.com, correct?
Yes, with our team, because we need a lot of data, and especially the ground data. So we created a portal. It's kind of like of apps or a portal where we can collect a real time data from the public, and the public can actually share what's happening on the ground. So we are collecting both a little bit of technical and also the situation on the ground. So this data is actually valuable, because if you collect it later on, then probably is a bit more to estimates. So I believe Dr. Khamarrul will also agree with me later on how valuable this data is.
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much. Before we carry on, I want to acknowledge both of you who are very much focused on what is currently happening right now and how we can make this better in the future. I just want to spend a little bit more time speaking as laymen. Walaupun you are both experts in your fields, as laymen, what were you feeling when you saw events unfolding before your eyes? And I'm sure you were both on the ground lah, turun padang. I mean, from a personal point of view, what hit you most? Dr. Khamarrul, maybe you can start?
Okay, maybe.
Okay.
Go ahead, Moss.
I'm just about to say that I'm also one of the victims. Basically, during the eve of Saturday, I was in my mother's in-law's house in Hulu Langat.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, so we were trapped, and literally we have to swim and find a higher ground. So my mother-in-law house was actually inundated up to the first level, and the whole furniture, equipment, vehicle all gone, and full with mud. So it's actually quite flabbergasted, but we are quite lucky that all of us are quite safe. But looking at other people's situation, actually much worse. So we are pretty much quite lucky lah. So we are one of the victims.
So you, so nobody can tell you what it was like. Like you were there. You mentioned you were swimming for your safety.
Indeed. We thought it's just a normal heavy rain, but we did not expect the water level could reach as high as me, or maybe more than me. I'm about 6 feet tall. It's higher than me, in fact, so almost 2.5 meter height.
And how long did it take to reach that level in Hulu Langat?
I think from 7 p.m. in the evening, and it continues rain, and it continues to increase until 2 a.m. And it's only start to decided back around 5 or 6 a.m.
Okay. Dr. Khamarrul, I mean, when did it hit you that this is serious? This is a national disaster. When did it hit you?
Thank you, Haris. Well, let me be honest. Actually, I spent almost 3 to 4 days without water, without electricity, without the telecommunication in the upstreams of Hulu Langat. So maybe most people during the heat, they spend most of the time in the downstream, like in Sri Muda, Shah Alam, in Dengkil. Of course, it's the most affected area, but we went to the Hulu Langat area. Of course, as mentioned by Muaz, o- not many people are actually there provide a basic needs in the first few days. So can you imagine, without the telecommunication, you can't really manage all the assistance. It's not easy to be there without any contacts. So that's my experience, and we went together with Mercy Malaysia and start collecting the data. And I do agree with Muaz, one of the most valuable data during the first few weeks. So the people who are suffering, the houses who are affecting, perhaps we need to know how many of the houses are total loss, so then we can divert some of the urgent needs to these people. So during the chaotic, the first few days, of course, the village leaders, the governments are busy, everybody are busy, but these victims need helps. So I think UTM and Mercy Malaysia came at the right time and lend our assistance collecting the data, the damage assessment, and so on. But of course, I think with the platforms created by Muaz, it will helps a lot. But of course, without any electricity, without any telecommunication, it's not easy, by the way. So that's why we went to the ground zero in Hulu Langat until Sungai Lui and Kampung Paya Lebar. Look at these houses of our friends. It's totally damaged, Haris. So
No,
when
I
I
know.
firstly saw, it looked like a tsunami by itself. How you can imagine those people, they are not talking about water in the houses. There's no more houses for
Yeah.
them. So, um, well, to me, as academicians for about 20 years, we tend to develop a model, we tend to develop a approach and methods, but technically speaking, when you see all this damage and how much they are suffering, and that's starting a new thought that we need to properly understand what actually happening in the ground. So that's why we spend most of our time in the first week in the upstream, and we went back to Sri Muda, Shah Alam, to Dengkil, to understand what actually happening in the downstream. And to make it short here, it's all interrelated, Haris. What was happening in the upstream, uh, some of the sediments will increase the well, kalau bahasa mudah di sini, kuasa pemusnahan dia agak tinggi, ya. Kerana dia bukan hanya memperkatakan tentang air, we are talking about sediment itself. So that's why kita lihat banyak, bukan hanya di Hulu Langat, but we went also to Bentong, Karak, and the water, the sediment travel up to Mentakap, Temeloh. So that's why when we interviewed the locals, um, well, pakcik, makcik, mereka ni biasa banjir, Haris, technically speaking.
Yeah, I
But
know that.
when come to this particular event, it came very quick, very fast, and the impact is higher. So you can imagine those people who are suffering, they lost many things within short period of time.
They
So
lost
I hope
everything.
that this a tragedy remind us the powerful of the nature, how smart, how intelligent the government is, the system is. We need to improve, empower our local communities. They are the one who going to be the frontliner during that
Okay.
golden hours, Haris.
Let me bring in someone right now. I know we've got some people who are on Facebook. I want to add in Kashmita. Kashmita, is she online? So I'm just
Yeah,
going to add in. Hi, Kashmita. How are you?
I'm good. Hello.
Thank you for joining us. You have something to say about this topic?
Yes, I do. Okay. Actually, hi, Mr. Khamarrul and hi, Mr. Muaz. I'm Kashmita. I'm 22. I'm a full-time student, but okay, getting to this topic. Actually, it was on the 19th of December. I I came back to Seremban. I was coming from Kampa, and I was stuck in the traffic. Sorry, this was on the 18th of December. I was stuck in the traffic for almost 9 hours. So after that, it hit me like, you know, I was a victim of a flood once as well in Seremban, in 2008. So I told myself, I think I should reach out and help people. So
Okay.
that's what I did. And I used Facebook as a platform for me. I'm an ordinary person. I have no power anything of such. So I used Facebook and I asked people for donations. So that's what I did, and I received almost 2,500 ringgit of donations, and I distributed goods, and mostly I did for I bought stuff for dogs and cats, because people the people that were helping, they helped human, they helped the
Okay.
people in need, but no one focused on the dogs and cats that were in danger.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Kashmita. Uh,
So
when you say something like you had no power, I think everyone has the power in some way or the other, and this has never been more obvious than in the last couple of weeks. That so many people have stepped up, like yourself, and a lot of other people, and have assisted. And thank you for helping
thank
out the dogs and the cats
no problem.
in your area
Yep,
as well. Thank you, Kashmita.
no problem.
Okay, so Moaz, your data collection, uh,
Yes.
a wonderful idea. How does it become practical? Like how does it help immediately?
You see, this data, if you leave it too long, if you collect it later, then it's not become hot anymore. So what we have now is actually a real-time data collected on the ground with a true and correct observation. So this is
Okay,
what we need.
give me an example. Misalnya, give me an example.
Example, we can see what are the property affected, okay, and then definitely the location, and then the water level. Okay, this water level is quite important in our predicting the flood, because is the main instrument to see how high the water level is going to be. Okay, and then the estimated damages. We also ask public to basically estimate what are their losses. Okay, and then the photos of the areas. So these are the real photos, not
So
photos after the
your
event.
your data covers a lot of areas, bukan saja what or flood level, but you're also talking about estimated losses. You're talking about real-time photographs and all. So your data can be used on many different platforms to
Correct.
address many different problems.
Correct. That's right. That's right. So what we normally talk about is disaster risk reduction. So we look at how to prevent, and then preparedness and respond and recovery. So in this case, we are looking on how to recover and what are the affected area. So this kind of risk that we can use to see what will be the impact. Okay.
Okay, I mean that is fantastic. It's definitely something that can be used uh, for what's next. I mean, to try and prevent this from happening. Let's
That's
talk
right.
about what went wrong other than nature. Yes, we know nature hujan, ribut, and it rains. Everyone, I see some comments saying memang selalu hujan. I was in
Yeah.
Temelo where someone's house was 2 floors underwater, and he told me in January 12 months
Mm.
ago, memang one floor was underwater. But then,
Mm.
like Dr. Khamarrul, surely your disaster preventiveness and preparation also reveals that this is not purely Mother Nature. There is some human element of malpractice, shall we say, yang telah menambah ataupun contribute to the magnitude of the disaster. We've seen visuals on Facebook and Instagram of bala, huge logs flowing down, breaking down bridges. I was in Hulu Langat, where I was told by the kampung people, huge logs were literally sweeping away houses and bridges. Uh, do you have any information about this? Any data you can share?
Yeah, okay. Haris, let me share some of my own finding, perhaps
Okay.
to reach most of the people here today. Um, well, when the disaster happening, we start mobilize our team, so-called rapid assessment team. We went to several areas to see what was happening. This well, beside collecting this damage assessment data, we also would like to hear um, the um, a characteristic of the events. And let me share here today that the disaster that happening in Selangor and Klang Valley, it has a similar characteristic in Pahang, Bentong Kara, and goes down to this Mentakap. The water goes up to this Tamalo,
What is the characteristic
Pahang
you're talking
River,
about? You
and
got the similar
the
characteristic.
same pattern we found in Jelebu, Negeri Sembilan. So that's why, as I mentioned at the beginning, that we have to know the root causes. Well, what bring so much water to the place, and how
So,
this area couldn't cope anymore with such amount of water in the water catchment in the upstream. So
so
that's why we were wondering,
what
perhaps
are the root
the
causes, Dr. Khamarrul? What are the root causes? Some of
yeah,
them.
so I'm talking about the typhoon induced today. So with this typhoon induced disaster, that was similar event, that the northern part of the states, like Penang, back in 2017. If you remember, most of the Penang Islands are flooded at that particular time, because of Rambre at that particular time. So this time around, we have seen similar pattern. So that's why the amount of water, the sediment mobilized to the downstream, it has a different characteristic. So, well, to come back to your questions, Haris, um, well, the patterns and the amounts of the impact might be different from time to time. So today, I think we are not just talking about flooding uh, at all. We have to think of the different type of disaster, like landslide, debris flow. There are different type of disaster, of course, but with this double disaster, sort of bencana berganda during pandemic COVID-19, we have to consider all this multi-hazard into the pictures, Haris. So the flooding that we experience recently might not be the one that we experienced the last 15, 20 years. The frequency, the magnitude might be different. So that's how actually we end up with these assessment, and hopefully this report will be finished very soon, and we will end up with some of the list of urgent recommendations, not only to the governments, the federal governments, but also to the state and district level, Haris.
Haris, can I interrupt a little bit? Haris, you're on mute, Haris.
Okay, yes, you can interrupt.
Okay, yes, yes. Okay, basically, if I may also contribute on what went wrong, there's two factors mainly what caused the floods: nature and also man-made. Nature-wise, definitely because we may underestimate the climate change. So there's the heavy rainfall in the catchment, which increase the water flow or discharge into the river system. And the river system and drainage that we have may not be able to cater with this amount of water. Okay, this can be either from design point of view, or because of what happened to the drainage and also to the rivers. Some of it because are man-made, due to probably heavy runoff and siltation to the river because of maybe development or loggings, yeah, and also due to the backwater effect at the same time, especially near the river mouth where there are high water tide, coupled with high river flow and high rains, and basically they are not able to cope. Yeah, and also there's a change of morphology due to erosion and sedimentation in the river, which caused the river to be narrow and shallower. This can contribute due to nature and also due to man-made. If you can see along the river in Malaysia, especially in the city area, urban areas, there's a lot of sediments, there's a lot of rubbish. These
Yes, there
contribute a
is.
lot.
I saw that.
These contribute a lot. Yeah. So when we talk about human empowerment just now by Kavita or Karita, yeah. So this is how we basically try to get involved, that put this awareness to all the people that throwing rubbish and rapid development, uncontrolled development, sediment discharge, logging, these kind of things are basically contributing to the floods.
I agree with you totally about the rubbish, because when I was paddling around Taman Sri Muda and Highcom, we were just paddling past rubbish upon rubbish upon rubbish upon rubbish. I just want to add in someone from Twitter Space right now. We have a guest. Is that Douglas right here? Okay, Douglas Martin. Douglas Martin, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Hey Douglas, how are you doing? Where are you listening from?
Subang.
Subang. Were you affected by the floods, Douglas?
Almost, like a few houses in my area were affected. 2 houses actually.
Okay. What are your thoughts about what we're talking about today?
I think the government lah.
The government lah.
They didn't do much enough lah. They didn't do enough to help.
Yeah.
Prevent.
On the one hand, it's very easy to say the government didn't do enough, but on the other hand, I think we need to acknowledge what they have done. At the same time, even more so, what the rakyat have done. The people out there have really stepped up, and I understand your frustration as well, Douglas. But do you have any solutions?
I guess we just need to find more capable leaders.
That is the request of the entire nation. Thank you very much, Douglas. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So, Khamarrul and Muaz, I know we're trying to add data and what we can do next into the mix, but at the end of the day, to the average man, the average layman, it's all about who is responsible. People like yourselves have been taking responsibility. You're trying to make things work. Okay, let's just spend a couple of minutes. What needs to be put in place right now, or that is being put in place right now, to ensure this never happens again to this magnitude? People don't die in their living rooms anymore. Dr. Khamarrul, can you give us a short, brief answer?
Yes, perfect. Three things, Harris, within short period of time. We have to strengthen our risk governance. That's pretty obvious. Second, we have to spend on the risk communication. And the last one, we have to strengthen our community resilience. So it's not, I think I do agree with you, it's not totally responsibility of the government. There are some part of the communities also should at least share some of the burden. Talking about the risk governance, we are not talking about the federal only, but also the state and district level. That's how the disaster management structure work in Malaysia. Every single level have their own particular roles and responsibility. I think we have to equip them with better asset, better system, better way of communicating. Second, on the improving the risk communication, I'm talking about the local risk communication. I was in Dengkil, check my own, these WhatsApp groups of these victims. I of course I asked the permission, Haris. So I just want to check 2 days, 2 hours before the flood hit the area. Not much information actually circle around. How actually the community leader should play a major role disseminating the information that they receive from the district office, for example. So those risk communication should be properly disseminated in the targeted area. We are not talking about the district level anymore, but perhaps at the certain residential area, we have disseminated this area to that particular targeted community, for example. And last but not least, on the community resilience, we understood that some of the residential are lying in the a floodplain area. Like it or not, they have to accept this risk. They live with risk. They have to accept this living with a floods, technically speaking. So I think by knowing the risk, you can better prepare actually uh, at the family level, at the grassroots level. We have to think of what would be the best way for us to survive for the next 3 days if anything happened. So I think we observe what was happening in the highway on that particular night. Many stuck in the traffic jam, spending the whole night in the highway without water bottle instead. So this kind of preparedness level should be go down at the individual level, Haris, and it can be improved at the communal level. Maybe they should invest to have their own boats, their own um, um, have a better evacuation center for themselves. So this kind of mindset should be injected into this vulnerable community. So that's pretty much a short recommendation, Haris.
Okay, Muaz, in your
Yeah,
opinion, what should be
my
done?
opinion actually is awareness, both government and also the public. Okay, the government more awareness on the what to do, and the public is understanding what is the effect and identifying the risk. We should look at which area is high risk area or flood prone area, and then maybe some of the implementation of flood mitigation program to be budgeted more, especially on high risk, high economical area. And then the response, okay, immediate response, awareness, how to respond, what needs to be done, okay, both on the government side and also the public. And I believe it's actually a hybrid approach responsibilities between the top, bottom, and bottom up from the government and also from the rakyat. And what we need also a good leadership, both from the government sectors and also the authorities. So this is what we need, I believe.
We're all being very, very kind and very, very thoughtful here. I want to bring in Satish. This is on Twitter Space. Satish, are you there, sir? Satish?
Yeah, okay. Hi, Haris. I was waiting for quite some time.
Sorry about that, brother. Satish, where are you calling from, or where are you listening in from?
Okay, I'm actually, my hometown is Shalam,
Okay.
section 26, 27.
Oh, wow. You are close to ground zero.
Yeah, but I escaped it because I'm working in Johor.
Okay.
So my parents and my uncles, my aunties, their houses all were affected as well. So, okay, as I was listening to all the comments from, not only comments from the researchers and everything, but let's be honest, we have been having this flood for so many years in our country. This is not the first time we're having this flood. Are we saying that we are brain dead to get a proper solution for this, what they call these floods? Yes, man-made. Okay, I understand that. But are we saying that we cannot predict? We have so many engineers, so many lecturers. Every year, I was in university up to 2016. Every year they have projects for the undergrads saying that, okay, what kind of how to mitigate all these Banjir problems. Are we saying that all that is just gone to waste? How come there is no proper research has been done up to now to mitigate this problem? Are we saying that we don't have a proper body to do that? So where does the JPS comes in?
Okay, very good question, Satish. I'm just wondering, Muaz and Dr. Khamarrul, any thoughts and answers? Thank you, Satish. Thank you so much for your question.
But maybe I could chip in a little bit.
Please do.
Interestingly, about flood and rains, it's all about statistical, and it's all how you use that statistical data to predict your floods. So in general, cost in Malaysia, generally we use 100 years ARI or return period. But in Europe, they could go higher to every 1,000 or 10,000. So that relates to the cost and budget. So I believe with the recent event, we are maybe not able to only look at 100 years return period, maybe more ARI, 11,000 or maybe 1,000 ARI. And to allocate budget for it, I believe we should focus and look into very high critical risk area where it involves a lot of population and economic areas. So I think we have underestimated what will be the flood event and the storm came to our area.
Okay. Here, okay, I'm going to bring up a statement around, and I'm going to talk about this statement. So this statement is from Lawrence. Firstly, Lawrence says, firstly, change the government. Okay, we'll leave that aside. Only 3 civil servants, Bomba, APM, PDRM, did good, not forgetting NGOs and the rakyat. Now, first of all, I would just like to correct, or I would like to disagree with Lawrence. I don't think only 3 civil servants, Bomba, APM, PDRM, did good. I believe there were many others, including Angkatan Tentera as well. But the feeling that Lawrence is expressing, which I'm also feeling, is the reason that we feel this is because there seems to be no one center where all the information is disseminated, we get all the information in real time, and we know exactly what's going on. Misalnya, during COVID, till today, I will know exactly how many people died that day, how many people affected, how many Omicron, how many this, how many that. Till today, 2 weeks later, we don't have one center where all information is gathered, disseminated to the public, where I will feel that, hey, somebody's in control. Right now, it just seems like everyone is out there paddling their own boats, all doing a good job, but nobody's in control. Doc, how do you feel about this? Am I off the boat? Am I off the chart, or do I make sense?
Wow. Yeah, as I said, one of my first recommendation, of course, to strengthen the risk governance. We need a change of the command during this major scale of disaster. And what was happening,
Who should be in
of course,
command?
beyond than our expected event. But technically speaking, during any crisis, we need a proper line of command. That's pretty clear.
Yes.
Second, well, you mentioned about the COVID-19 pandemic system and so on. I think we can replicate somehow. That goes to my second recommendation, strengthening the risk communication, how actually the risk properly disseminated to targeted area, targeted communities. If they know that they are entering high risk flood area, perhaps they can increase the level of preparedness. If you are driving and for several reasons you receive the message saying that in the next 1 kilometer you will be facing this level of water, sort of. So you may tend to at least increase your awareness, preparedness. So that sort of ideas, how actually the risk should be properly understood and
Okay.
disseminated at the local level. Haris?
Going back to your earlier statement, so who should be in command, Doc or Muaz?
Well,
I don't have one answer. Who should be in command? Let's just
okay. During that
Siapa?
particular unexpected event, we are talking about Selangor, of course. The Selangor state should responsible. That's pretty clear, and that was written in our MKN 20 Directive 20. So if a floods or disaster take place in one particular district, is responsibility of the district office. District officer will chair the so-called the committee, disaster management committee, Haris. And if involved with more than 2 or 3, then the state can take over. That was written pretty clear in our guideline. But what was happening during that time? We are talking the event goes pretty quick, rapid, and the amounts of the water and those who are affected, the increasing goes very quick. So that's why I think we have to strengthen during this large scale of disaster. I'm not. We are not talking here just ordinary flooding. We are talking something that came
Could be
at the
worse.
extreme event. Haris.
Yeah. I'm going to bring in Noor Hidayati right now. She's been waiting for a long time. Noor Hidayati, apa khabar? Are you still there? Are you listening? Are you a small girl wearing a red dress, or is that your daughter? Noor, are you there? Noor, maybe she's been waiting so long she took. Noor, I tell you what, Noor, you get back to us. You get back to my producer, and let us know when you're back in the room. Muaz,
Yes,
who should
Haris.
be in command, in your
I
humble opinion?
believe there's few agencies like NATMA, JPS, but at this moment, like Dr. Khamarrul said, the state should control. But I believe technically we do have actually a flood warning system. But like Dr. Khamarrul said, the event occur beyond expectation, and also there's a gap actually between the disseminating the information and also notification to the public. So some public receive late notification and warning. So that's why you can see a lot of public not aware and basically trapped in the floods. So this, I think, is the way
Like yourself.
room to improve. Yes, exactly. So we know there's a rate, but we don't know until what level the floods are gonna be. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was on the ground with the whole branch in 7 or 8 different places. Everybody had the same story, like you, Muaz. Oh, biasanya misalnya air datang ke tahap ni, so we lifted everything onto the table, and then next thing you know, the water went up to the table, and we lifted everything onto the cupboard. Next thing you know, it's up to the roof. So everyone
Yeah.
had the same story. Benda ni dah terjadi, kita tak biasa,
Yes.
bukan tak biasa, kita biasa, but
Yes.
it went beyond. And so
Yeah.
that one, okay, you can't say, oh, we were not prepared. The reason we're not prepared is because it hasn't happened before. But I think
Yes.
what a lot of people are upset about was the response
Yes.
from what they seem to see as the people responsible. And I think that is a common feeling here. I want to bring Noor Hidayati. Is she back here? Noor? Is she back? No, she's not back. Okay.
While waiting for Hidayati, Haris, may I share? There's the reason we set up this bencanabanjir.com. So where we actually collect information, first-hand real information from the ground. So people can look at this information where we overlay few information from Met data and also JPS information and real public information in that portal.
Bencanabanjir.com.
Banjir.com.
Naini, could you just type that into the comment section? Bencanabanjir.com. And people
Banjir.com.
who are affected or have information can upload it in real time. Is that right?
That's right. And if you are around the area, you can see which area has already been affected and what's happening is around the area. So this data or this information can be used recent, real time, or can be used later on if required. Yes.
Okay. How long just thinking ahead here. Now the waters are down. Can bencanabanjir.com continue to be used in terms of, let's say, rebuilding, in terms of what are the resources required? You got cleaning, you got disinfectant, you got to dig up mud from drains. There is so much work to be done. Can bencanabanjir.com assist in this rebuilding effort?
Yeah, that's right. In one of the information that we request from the observers or maybe flood victims is the total amount of damage. So, for example, some of the organization would like to contribute some fund. They could see what would be the impact or the damage around the area. So at this moment, per house area, we are looking about 40,000 damages or losses. Yeah, so we can use that information basically to see what are they required from the people. The other one is basically for long-term usage. If you use this data and you know the area has been affected by the flooded, so if you want to buy a house or if you are a developer, you want to develop a certain area, you know this area briefly has been inundated. So it is actually quite crucial information that you can use for future.
Okay. Doc, I know you answered this question just now. I just want to approach it again from Nevin speakers. Why do you think the delay of the authorities, number one, do you think it's a ruling government or state government issue? Because no sane leader will allow people stranded for hours and days. And that was the concern, my concern as well. Like we're talking day 2, day 3, and some points day 4, where it seemed like where I was, Taman Sri Muda, not Hulu Langat, Taman Sri Muda and Highcom, people were still in their second floor. By choice, by the way, ada ramai yang said, no, saya tak nak keluar, although the water was still up to here. But it was like, yeah, why the delay in assistance? State or federal? What do you think?
Well, okay. As expected, Haris. Um, wa- Mungkin saya boleh jelaskan di sini ya. Saya memahami saya pun meneliti beberapa mesej dan juga nota-nota di sinilah in the chat box. Kita memahami keadaan yang berlaku dan ramai mangsa yang bercakap. In fact, saya pun sendiri berjumpa dengan, mungkin saya boleh nyata, Encik Ubarajan, saya tak pasti, Encik Ubarajan di section 25 Shah Alam turut bersama kita Haris malam ni. So he was mentioning that there are many things goes wrong on that night and the following days. We heard many stories, and we tend to understand the behavior. And coming back to the system, the governance system, we have to admit that there are certain gaps to differentiate between the level of commands, Haris. So you can't really have two leaders commanding at one particular crisis. So to identify those who they take a lead in this commanding, perhaps that's pretty much the gaps we need to improve. And coming back to your questions, well, whether it's a federal, whether it's a states, I think it's all interrelated. And we are talking about rakyat, those who are suffering. And if I allow to say, mention about the system, the system in Malaysia is pretty different than Japanese or Filipinos, where they decentralize the system, the governance system. We adopt this centralized system. We have a federal, we have a state, we have the district. We have to admit that the certain asset resources, and that's why we, I think, have to rethink. Perhaps, in fact, the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction also promoted this decentralization system, where they empower the state and district during major calamities. So, but talking about what was happening in December, I think every single of us today should at least understand how much basically our contributions, so instead of we are focusing the governments, what was something that I learned, how beautiful the Malaysians actually can react very quick, respond. We need a proper coordination of NGOs at that particular time when we see some of the response on the other sectors collapse. So these combinations of the supporting system, civil society organization, NGOs always work during the crisis. We help the governments. If we set up these mutual understanding, proper coordinations, we can help each other during that moment. But this is something that I didn't see during that calamity. So hopefully, Haris, we can learn from this crisis and improve to face another a future risk. Haris.
I think you've put it very well. A big acknowledgement must go out to the rakyat, and I think you've wrapped it up quite well there. Moaz, before we wrap up the show, any final thoughts from you about what's next?
Yes, Haris, I think we need more and more awareness and also a flood warning system, because most of the cities live along the coastal areas and also the floodplain area. So floodplain area where this water level overspill if it's high rain. Yeah? So we need more awareness and also flood preparation and preparedness, including all the warning system and also what to do. So I think we are lack in that. Although it's just this risk, it may not happen, but we still need that, especially in those high risk areas.
I totally agree with you. And with that, gentlemen, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Today, we've spent some time talking about the disaster that has befallen Malaysia, and I think we have got a lot of information. If anything, we've got a lot more awareness. But as Moaz said, we need more awareness. So thank you so much. Thank you to the two of you for what you do.
Thank you,
Dr.
Harith.
Khamarrul, for
Thank
your
you to all the audience.
continuous
Thank you,
work, and
Haris.
thank you, Moaz,
Thank you,
for
Moaz.
just jumping in and just being an amazing person as well. And thank you all
Thank you
to the
very much.
rakyat as well who have taken part. So, guys, Khamarrul, Dr. Khamarrul, thank you very much, and also have a safe trip back. And Moaz,
Thank you, Haris.
I will see you on ground zero, and I will go and type in on Bantuan Banjir myself because I've got some information
Sure.
to give you.
No worries. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
and have a
guys.
good evening, everybody. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Khamarrul.
you. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Khamarrul. Guys, that's what's going on in Malaysia. Before we go, I just want to leave you with a little video right now. This is
Nombor 12. Nombor 12. Nombor 12 mana? Nombor 12.
Okey, adik duduk sini ya.
Terima kasih. Okey, palang tak ada warna emas.
ataupun kalau boleh boleh meringankan lah beban macam ini.
Bagi baby dulu, bagi baby dulu.
Okay, can you take the rope? One, two, 3. Oh, cute. Hi, sayang. Hello.
Okay, got you. I go and give. I come back, okay? Yeah, I come back.
Kejap. All right, so that was a visual little clip that I had put together. Hey, guys, thank you so much. I just want to address some of the comments here. Malaysia is on too much developments in recent years, only 32 million people, but we're building houses as though we are 100 million. Who's buying? Got to agree with you. Ever since the day I was born, there's always been some kind of construction that has been going on in Malaysia. Construction never seems to stop in this beautiful country of mine. Also, this one, our media has failed to cover the Banjir too. Toilet roll? That sounds like a lot of shit. I know, I'm just making a joke. All right, here are some of the Here we go. I want to answer this question. KP Kirpal says, who is going to fund the NGOs? NGOs are funded by public funding, by friends, by themselves. I have an NGO called the Ho Branch. At first, my wife and myself put our own money in, and then our friends chipped in, and now it's family, friends, and public funding. So that's how most NGOs operate. Yeah, that's just how it works. Vinny says, we have military bazaars in every state. What are they doing instead of disseminating information to the community? Instead, they're interested to communicate with the community during elections with their bloody empty promises. Please learn from a neighboring island, which is called Singapore. The leaders are educated and capable to lead the citizen with respect, and they don't have a state. Instead, don't constitute meaning the area. Let's look how many boom produce rescue. Bye. All right, that was too difficult to read. Guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank you so much for commenting. I really appreciate it. If you haven't shared the program right now, please share it. Click share, click subscribe, and I'll be back very soon again with another episode of What's Going on Malaysia. And this time, I'm going to be seeking out those people who were directly affected by the floods. I've been out now for 2 weeks with the whole branch, and we've seen so much damage, so much hurt, so much destruction. But most of all, I have seen so much good. Good in the rakyat, good in the people who have stepped up, good in general humanity who are out there helping each other. And I've seen a lot of gratefulness from the residents who we go and visit, or we go and bring some aid to, or we rescue, or we give some support to. Always, always grateful and always thankful. And that's what makes me proud, not just to be a human being, but to be a Malaysian. With that, I do the show, What's Going on in Malaysia, to find out basically what is going on in Malaysia and what's going on with this beautiful country of mine. Have I found the answer? Most definitely not. But I tell you what, I've got some very big news coming up real soon, and I will share that with you. But before, as I lead out, I'd like to just play another clip. These were taken by myself in the floods in and amongst Highcom and Taman Sri Muda. And with that, I'll see you guys.
Wait. Kita keluar sini. Depan tu tak boleh ke? Boleh ke? Wait lah. Belum. Kejap bang. Saya tengok je.
Kayu.
Nanti tinggal dengan siapa nanti? Seorang.
Nanti seorang.
Nanti tak nak keluar.
Nanti kita bawa nanti keluar. Ha?
Dah lah kita.
Tak, nanti mau keluar tak? Kita bawa nanti keluar. Selamat. Sure kan?
Lepas ni, kita ada bomba, ada tentera. So, arahan daripada tentera pun memang semua kena keluar bang, keselamatan.
Nanti?
Kami tengah tunggu dekat sini kak. Kami ada 2 bot yang besar ni. It's not joke kak. Kalau kata kami tak